When I told my family I wanted to start my own business, they didn't just doubt me. They laughed. Not just a small, uncomfortable chuckle either. No, they full-on laughed like I had just said I was moving to Mars. I still remember the look on my mom's face at the dinner table that night. "You can't even keep your room clean," she scoffed. "How are you going to run a business?" My dad shook his head like he was disappointed, but too tired to argue. My older brother, Tyler, the golden child, just smirked and said, "Good luck being broke for the rest of your life." I tried to explain. I had a real plan. I wasn't just dreaming. I had spent months learning everything I could about digital marketing and small business startups. I had even saved up a little seed money, working 2 jobs after college. But none of that mattered to them. In their eyes, if you weren't following the traditional path, degree, corporate job, slow promotions, you were a failure waiting to happen. For the next few months, it was like I didn't exist. Family gatherings were unbearable. They would go on and on about Tyler's new promotion, my cousin's law school success, my neighbor's son buying a condo, while I sat there, the disappointment, pretending not to notice the pitying glances. The worst part? I started to doubt myself too. Every failed sale, every long night, every slow week. Their laughter echoed in my head louder than my own inner voice. But I didn't quit. Because somewhere deep down, under all the noise, I knew I was building something real. The first year was brutal. I worked 14-hour days, living off ramen noodles and coffee, stretching every dollar like it was gold. I couldn't afford an office, so I worked from a corner of my tiny apartment. I missed weddings, birthday parties, holidays. Not because I didn't care, but because I knew if I ever wanted to be taken seriously, I had to sacrifice now, and then, slowly, things started to change. A big client took a chance on me. Then another. Then a small partnership offer came in. I hired my first assistant. I moved into a tiny but real office space. By the end of year 2, my company was pulling in 6 figures. By the end of year 3, we had doubled. And suddenly, people started calling me. People like my cousin, asking if I was hiring. People like my uncle, wondering if I needed part-time help. People like Tyler, Mr. Goldenchild himself, texting me out of nowhere saying, "Hey, man, I'm thinking of switching careers. Got anything open at your company?" The same Tyler who told everyone at Christmas that I would end up living in Mom's basement was now asking if I could give him a job. The first time he called, I didn't even recognize the number. When I answered and heard his awkward, too friendly voice, I almost laughed. He tried to play it cool, told me how proud he was of me, told me how he always knew I had it in me, told me his current job was toxic and he was looking for a fresh start. It was everything I had dreamed about hearing, but not in the way I thought. I sat there, letting him ramble, feeling this strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. Because even though I had made it, even though I had proved them wrong, part of me wished it hadn't taken this much pain to get here. When he finally stopped talking, I asked, "Why would you want to work for someone who's such a failure?" There was silence on the line. And in that moment, I realized something important. Their opinions had never really mattered. I didn't need their approval anymore. I had built my own future, with or without their applause. I told him politely that we weren't hiring, and even if we were, "I think you'd be happier somewhere else," I said. Because honestly, I didn't want people like that poisoning the team I had fought so hard to build. As I hung up the phone, a wave of peace washed over me. Not anger, not revenge. Just pure, quiet satisfaction. They laughed when I started. They doubted every step. They abandoned me when I needed them most. And now? Now they needed me. But I had already found everything I needed in myself. After I turned Tyler down, I figured the drama was over. I thought he would get the hint and move on with his life. I was wrong. If anything, my rejection only made things worse. Within days, word had spread across the entire family tree. Suddenly, I was the selfish one, the stuck-up one, the ungrateful little brother who forgot where he came from. My mom called first. Her voice was tight, sharp, the way it always got when she was about to guilt-trip me. "I heard you're doing really well," she said, as if it physically hurt her to admit it. "Your brother's just going through a rough patch, you know. He supported you when you were struggling. You owe him." I almost dropped the phone. Supported. Me? The only thing Tyler ever gave me was doubt, mockery, and backhanded jokes about how I was wasting my life. I wanted to yell. I wanted to list every time they belittled me, every time they made me feel like less than nothing. But I didn't. I just said, as calmly as I could, "I owe him nothing." The next day, my aunt left a passive-aggressive comment on one of my business posts. "Success changes people. Sad to see you forgot your family." It didn't end there. A few cousins unfollowed me on social media. Family events that I was once barely invited to were now, accidentally, forgetting to mention the dates. It was wild. When I was struggling, I was invisible. Now that I was winning, I was the villain. But the part that truly stunned me, they didn't want help. They wanted handouts. They didn't ask if they could interview for a position. They didn't offer to work their way up or bring any skills to the table. They just expected me to swoop in and fix their problems, like I owed them some magical reward for treating me like garbage, and they weren't subtle about it. One day, Tyler showed up at my office. No call, no warning. I was in a meeting when the receptionist buzzed me. "There's a man here who says he's your brother. He says it's urgent." For a second, my heart dropped. Was something wrong? Had there been an accident? But when I stepped into the lobby, I saw him sitting there, looking way too casual in jeans and a wrinkled t-shirt, scrolling through his phone like he owned the place. When he saw me, he grinned. "Hey man, figured we could talk face to face. Maybe you'll change your mind." I should have turned around and walked away, but I was tired of running. I needed to say what I had been holding in for years. I led him into a side office and closed the door. Without missing a beat, he launched into his speech. How he hated his job. How he always knew I was smart deep down. How he just needed a shot. I let him talk, and when he finally ran out of breath, I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Where were you when I needed a shot, Tyler?" He blinked, caught off guard. "When I was eating instant noodles for the 5th night in a row, where were you? When I was one rent payment away from losing my apartment, where were you? When you laughed in my face, you and Mom, and everyone else, where were you then?" He didn't have an answer, because he knew. They all knew. They loved me when I was safe and predictable. They loved me when I was the family punchline. But the second I stopped playing their game, the second I built something they couldn't, control, they turned against me. I stood up and opened the door. "I hope you figure things out," I said, "but it won't be with my help." Tyler didn't say a word as he left. Didn't even look back, and as the door swung shut behind him, I felt a weight lift off my chest, one I hadn't realized I was still carrying. In the weeks that followed, things got quieter. The fake texts stopped. The guilt trips slowed. It was like they had finally accepted that I wasn't going to be their safety net. It hurt sometimes, sure. No one wants to feel like an outcast in their own family. But every time doubt crept in, I reminded myself, they had chosen who they were long before I chose who I wanted to be. And I chose better. I didn't just build a business. I built a life. A life where I get to work with people who believe in dreams. A life where loyalty means something. A life where success doesn't come with a leash. And every once in a while, when I pass by my old neighborhood, or see someone from the family post another passive-aggressive comment online, I smile. Because I know the truth. I didn't just prove them wrong. I proved myself right. Weeks turned into months. Life without their noise was quieter. And at first, it felt a little strange. Like standing in an empty room where you could still hear the echo of old arguments. But with time, the silence became peace. Business was booming. We signed 2 major contracts that would secure the company for years. I hired a team that actually believed in the mission. Dreamers, doers, risk-takers. People who reminded me of who I used to be when no one believed in me. I was finally free. Or so I thought. One Sunday morning, while I was reviewing some new proposals at a coffee shop, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Normally, I would have ignored it, but something made me pick up. Hello? There was a pause, and then a voice I hadn't heard in almost a year. My mom. Hi, sweetie, she said, trying to sound casual. We were just talking about... Your father and I... Well, we're going through a bit of a rough patch. I felt my chest tighten. Here we go again. She danced around it for a while, asking about work, pretending to be interested. But I knew it was coming. The real reason for the call. And sure enough, a few minutes later, she dropped the bomb. We're having some financial troubles. The house. Well, the bank's threatening to take it. And your father's medical bills. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. It almost would have been funny if it wasn't so pathetic. The same parents who once laughed at my dreams, who told everyone I was a lost cause, who never lifted a finger when I was struggling, now wanted me to save them. We just need a little help, she said, her voice quivering. Just until we get back on our feet. I didn't answer right away. Memories flooded in. The dinners where they talked about Tyler like he was a golden god while ignoring me. The times they said, "We're not made of money," whenever I asked for something small while buying my brother a new car. The nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering why I wasn't good enough. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just tired. I'm sorry you're struggling, I said finally, my voice steady. But I'm not your emergency plan. Silence. A deep, ugly silence. We're your family, she snapped, dropping the fake sweetness. You wouldn't even have that business if it weren't for how we raised you. I almost laughed out loud. Raised me? They raised me to expect failure. They raised me to doubt every idea I ever had. I didn't owe them a thing. Goodbye, Mom, I said quietly. I hope things work out for you. And I hung up. It didn't end. There, over the next few weeks, they tried everything. Guilt, manipulation, even public shaming. One day, I got a letter, a handwritten letter, from my dad. In it, he begged me to reconsider. Said he was proud of me now. That he always knew I would succeed. It was a lie. A desperate, hollow lie. The same man who once told me at the dinner table that dreamers are losers was now pretending he had been in my corner all along. It made me sick. I didn't respond. Instead, I donated to a local charity that helped first-generation entrepreneurs. Young kids who, like me once upon a time, had nothing but a dream and no one to back them up. It felt better than any revenge. Months later, I ran into my brother at a gas station. I almost didn't recognize him. He looked tired, beaten down by life. He approached me cautiously, hands in his pockets. Hey, he said, heard you're doing real good. I nodded, saying nothing. Look, man, I just want to say I'm sorry. For, everything. For a short moment, I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe people could change. But I remembered too clearly the way he laughed in my face. The way he watched while I drowned and never once reached out a hand. Some things you can't come back from. Thanks, I said. Take care of yourself. And I got in my car and drove away. Today, my life is full. Full of people who cheer when I win. Full of work that matters. Full of dreams that keep getting bigger. My past? It's still there. Still heavy some days, but it no longer defines me. If there's one thing I learned through all of this, it's that success isn't just about money or recognition. It's about building something they can never touch. It's about finding happiness in a life they were too small-minded to imagine, And it's about knowing, deep down, that no matter how loud they laughed, I got the last word. Just 6 months after that run-in with my brother, I got a call from my old high school principal. He wanted me to speak at Career Day. It was surreal. The same school where teachers used to roll their eyes when I mentioned starting my own company was now inviting me back as a success story. I agreed. Not for them, but for the kids sitting, where I once sat feeling invisible. When the day came, I stood on that familiar stage, looking out over rows of restless teenagers. I saw kids doodling in their notebooks, kids whispering and laughing, and a few kids staring at me with wide, desperate eyes. I cleared my throat and began. When I was sitting where you are, no one believed in me. They laughed when I said, I wanted to build something of my own. They told me it was a fantasy, that I should get a real job. But dreams aren't a waste of time. They're the blueprint of the future. The room fell silent. Even the kids who looked half asleep were. Now watching, I told them about the long nights, the fear, the failures. How every time someone said, you can't, I learned to hear, you must. I ended my speech with a simple message. Believe in yourself, even when the people closest to you don't. Especially when they don't. The applause was polite at first. Then it grew. And for a moment, I felt something deeper than pride. I felt peace. After the event, a young girl, maybe 16, came up to me, clutching a worn-out sketchbook. I want to start my own clothing brand, she said shyly. Everyone says it's stupid, that I'm not smart enough. I smiled. Let them laugh, I said. Then make them wish they hadn't. She grinned, eyes shining, and right there I saw a glimpse of my younger self. Scared but stubborn, quietly daring the world to underestimate me. Meanwhile, life continued. My business expanded into 3 new cities. I opened an office in my old hometown, hiring kids from tough backgrounds. Kids like me. One day, while reviewing applications, my assistant flagged a resume. You might want to see this, she said, handing it over with a smirk. I glanced at the name, Tyler, my brother. Apparently, his string of failed jobs had caught up with him, and now he was applying for a position at my company. I sat there for a long moment, staring at the paper. Once I would have fantasized about this. Once I would have loved the idea of him needing me. But now, it just made me sad. Sad that it had to be this way. Sad that our family had crumbled under the weight of pride and pettiness. I put the resume aside. I didn't call him. I didn't mock him. I didn't hire him either. Some bridges don't need to be burned. They just need to be left behind. As the months turned into years, my life became something even I could barely recognize. I traveled the world. I mentored young entrepreneurs. I funded scholarships for kids told they weren't smart enough, the ones society always counted out, like me. And every now and then, late at night, when the world was quiet, I thought about my family. I wondered if they ever regretted it. If they ever thought about how easily things could have been different. If only they had believed in me a little sooner. But I never called, and they never apologized. That chapter was closed. Today, when people hear my story, they focus on the success, the money, the awards, the headlines. But that was never the real victory. The real victory was something quieter, something no one could see. It was the moment I stopped needing their approval. The moment I realized that their laughter had never been my enemy. It had been my fuel. Their doubt had been the hammer that forged my resolve. Their rejection had been the wind beneath my wings. Without even realizing it, they had given me the greatest gift. The unshakable belief that I could survive anything. So if you're sitting there today, with a dream no one believes in, with people laughing in your face, remember this: let them laugh, let them doubt, let them say you'll never make it, and then go out there and prove them wrong in ways they could never even imagine. Because sometimes the sweetest success isn't just winning. It's winning without ever needing their applause.